We have two scriptures this morning for you, both from John. John chapter 9, verses 35 through 41. When Jesus heard of the expulsion, he sought out the healed one and asked, "Do you believe in the chosen one?" The other answered, "Who is this one that I may believe?" "You're looking at him," Jesus replied. "The chosen one is speaking to you now." The healed one said, "Yes, I believe," and worshiped Jesus. And Jesus said, "I came into this world to execute justice, to make the sightless see and the seeing blind." Some of the Pharisees who were nearby heard this and said, "You're not calling us blind, are you?" To which Jesus replied, "If you were blind, there would be no sin in that. But since you say, 'We see,' your sin remains." And John chapter 10, verses 1 through 10. The truth of the matter is, who doesn't enter the sheepfold through the gate, but climbs in some other way, is a thief and a robber. The one who enters through the gate is the shepherd of the sheep, the one for whom the keeper opens the gate. The sheep know the shepherd's voice. The shepherd calls them by name and leads them out. Having them all out of the fold, the shepherd walks in front of them, and they follow because they recognize the shepherd's voice. They simply won't follow strangers. They'll flee from them because they don't recognize the voice of strangers. Even though Jesus used this metaphor with them, they didn't grasp what he was trying to tell them. He therefore said to them again, "The truth of the matter is, I am the sheep gate. All who come before me were thieves and marauders whom the sheep didn't heed. I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be safe. You'll go in and out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal and slaughter and destroy. I came that you might have life and have it to the full." Ancient words for our present day consideration.
For reading that, and thank you for being here today. I always appreciate being able to share these kinds of moments with you. We're on a series where taking the Bible literally has done so much damage in our world, and you can't really blame people. They look in the English and they see this and they see sayings like, "I am the way, the truth, the life. No one comes to God but through me." And they panic. You know, when you think you may go to hell or that somebody you love or care about might go to hell, that gives you a lot of intensity. And sometimes that turns into cruelty, not even meaning to. That fear-based religion becomes cruel by its nature. So we're looking at the I am sayings in John. These are, I believe, incredibly misunderstood. And we're looking at them as a kind of poetry. John gives us 8 of these sayings. The church basically teaches one of the sayings, "I'm the way, the truth, life. No one comes to God through me," but leaves out, "What you do to the least of these, you do to me," and all the other I am sayings. The reason this is important, I think, is that religion is different than science. It's different even than philosophy. It's not about beliefs. It's about a trust in the life process. It's a trust in love. It's trust in justice and dignity and these kinds of things. A lot of the words, if we could read them in the original Greek and Hebrew, particularly the Hebrew, we wouldn't hear them as nouns. They're words like kingdom of God, son of God, that are much more like adverbs. They would be an ly at the end of the word because they're talking about qualities in life. When religion isn't mythic, when it's an experience of something that gives you great reverence, a sense of interconnectedness. It's more about the qualities of life that you feel than an actual seeing things that what John is going to do in these sayings. And I've mentioned before, he doesn't tell the parables in the same way. This is a parable, but for the most part, what he does is turn the parables into teaching stories. And they sound like historical events, but they're intended to illumine, to awaken us, to take us deeper into our understanding. So what he does is use everyday experiences, everyday parts of our life like bread. We looked at Jesus saying that when the sacred enters your life, it will be kind of like bread. It'll be something very ordinary, but it'll be something that fills you in a strange and wonderful way. And then the week after that, he said that the sacred enters our life sort of like light. When Jesus says, I am the light of the world, he's speaking from this depth and saying that the religion that will free you needs to illumine your life. It shouldn't just be something you believe in. I mean, it shouldn't just be like you believe in a flashlight. The flashlight should make your life clearer. It should help you live your life and help you discover your own depths. So there's 8 of these, and they're sort of like the facets on a diamond. And hopefully for the rest of this series, the umbrella will open more and more for you. And you'll get the poetry that what this is talking about is not some preposterous claim that you can't test, but a kind of revelation of your own life that help you notice things that have always been true in your life. So today, Jesus is going to say, I am the gate. In other words, that the sacred enters our life, sort of like is using a door. The word can mean door or gate, but it's sort of that meeting place between opposites. That a gate is the opening on the inside and the outside. So Jesus is going to say that you're led into the sheep, a place of safety, but also out into the world. So it's putting together the opposites of going in and going out in religion. All of the opposites, fear and hope, the need to be protected and the need to have adventure in life. This gate that's being talked about, the sacred, kind of bring those things together. And I'll try to make that clear as we go. We've been using the paintings of Van Gogh to try to make this clear. So if John, if you would mind putting up, obviously this doesn't have the color of the ones that we've been looking at. But Van Gogh did a study of birds' nests. He got fascinated by that for a while. And these nests are things that both protect the young egg, but it also is sort of a launching pad that when the young animal finds its wings, this will be the place out of which it finds power and flight. So it starts off as something that's protective, and yet it empowers. A couple of quotes I wanted to share with you. I guess just one. I'll just do one. Van Gogh asked the question, what is a drawing? How does one learn it? It is working through an invisible wall, an invisible iron wall that seems to stand between what one feels and what one can do. That the paintings are a way to help us see. And thank you, John. You can take those down. But there's a lot less color there. They almost seem like cocoons to me to look at that. And that kind of sense of something that protects you until you're strong enough not to need it anymore. And religion should be like that, I think John is saying. The way that John tries to make this point is there's a healing that takes place on the Sabbath. A man has been unable to see since he was born, seeing impaired. The image that's used or the word that's used is blindness. And this is always a very dangerous image because you don't want to use disabilities as seen as flaws. But what Jesus is saying in this story is not that the blind person has the problem. The person may not be able to see, they may be seeing impaired, but they have more vision than these religious bullies. When you see religious characters in John, this is not a critique of Judaism. It's more critique of religious hierarchy in general. When a preacher or a priest takes up power, when we become the shepherds and you become the sheep, there's a sense in which we're robbing you. We're not giving you the same experience of empowerment that we have had. So almost comedically, John plays this out by having a person who's been unable to see since they were born, be able to see, and because it happens on the Sabbath, the religious people get out of joint. Now, I don't think this really happened. I think John is putting together a teaching story, but it's certainly not an attack on Judaism. It's like John is using religious authorities throughout his book to illustrate what it means to misunderstand religion. That I think John is calling us out of the negative aspects of traditional religion. Obviously, he wouldn't write the book and give it to the church if he didn't believe in religion. But religion has danger. And so he's on these I am sayings, he's going to have to help us be able to tell the difference between healthy and unhealthy ideas of the sacred. The first week, he said, if it doesn't feed you, if it doesn't nourish you, then it's probably not the sacred. The second week, he said, if it doesn't illumine your path, if it doesn't make your life clearer, that is probably not really sacred at all. And today, I think he's saying if it doesn't put together the opposites, it's like usually in religion, religious bullies say either or, either God exists or God doesn't exist. Either Jesus rose from the dead or Jesus didn't rose from the dead. And what this is saying is the sacred is almost always found in between those opposites in our life. And that doesn't have to be a bad thing. The gate can do both. It can protect us and empower us. It can give us some beliefs or at least symbols, but also encourage us to doubt and question. So, as I say, these drawings that Van Gogh does, they look like cocoons to me. And there's a sense, I think, in which John is saying that religion that's healthy is a kind of cocoon. It protects you first because there are predators in religion. And there are a lot of wounded people walking planet Earth because of religious bullies. So Jesus calls them thieves and robbers. And this is, I'll get back to this in the next point. But this is saying, when Jesus is trying to remind people that he didn't come to judge them, he says, I come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. Jesus is the one who knows their name. So he's saying that when religion is healthy, it leads you into life and it touches you personally. It's not generic, right? You're not just being asked to believe something or do something. It's bringing out, it's like a cocoon that a butterfly is going to come out of. And that is your real self, your deeper self. So religion has to take us when we're frightened and wounded and strengthen us and keep us safe until we can outgrow that. But a religion that won't let you outgrow it, a religion that always makes Jesus your boss, is not what Jesus came to give you. Jesus came to empower you that you might bring love and justice into your own time and into your own world. So it takes us in when we're frightened and wounded, heals us, restores us, and sends us out into the world. It helps us discover our own wings. So the first thing that the gate does, these opposites that it puts together, are our hopes and our fears. I love Van Gogh quote where he says, he had a very hard life and his painting was an expression of that. He was trying to express a deep truth. He said, so instead of giving way to despair I took the way of active melancholy. As long as I had strength for activity, or in other words, I preferred the melancholy that hopes and aspires and searches to the one that despairs, mournful, and stagnant. In other words, the grief and pain, it didn't, his art was not denying that any of that took place. The painting today is fairly dreary, but he's saying something is born out of that. And I love that idea of choosing active melancholy, that when you're sad, you don't have to pretend that that's not true for you. He said, although I'm often in the depths of despair, there is still calmness, pure harmony, and music within me. So the trust is not that life will happen the way we want it to, but something important is being born out of us, even in our suffering. So the first thing, I think the opposites brought together. It needs to protect us, but it also needs to empower us. The second thing is it needs to be a boot camp for shepherds. That I never like it when people call you the flock or call me the shepherd. That desire to dominate other people leads a lot of people into religion. And also the desire to surrender responsibility draws a lot of people into religion. So again, Jesus is saying that all the people that came before me, and he's exaggerating here, all the people that came before me were thieves and robbers. What he's saying is when people have been lost in their tradition, when they've been taught lessons by Sunday school teachers that didn't understand the text, or taught by preachers or priests who didn't understand, then in a sense, that religion robs you of who you are. I heard a critic of Christianity one time say that the good shepherd is the butcher's best friend. By that, if religion is only setting you up to go into the dog eat dog world of the way things are, if it's not calling you out of that the word church means is ecclesia, it means to be called out of systems of domination, systems of economic hoarding. All of these things Jesus was calling people out of, because there can't be love in a world of injustice. So he's kind of harsh here, and he calls people thieves and robbers. He asks the person that was healed if they believe in the Son of God. That's the Greek word there. But again, it should be an adverb. If this was a woman, it could be the daughter of God. Jesus is becoming an example for every human being of our own roots into the sacred. He recognized himself as this expression of the sacred. But what he's trying to do is teach you that you are an offspring, you are an emanation, you are an example of whatever the sacred creativity is. So in this parable, Jesus says that the true teacher will call you by name. And I think what that means is when you hear this kind of truth, something will resonate inside of you, that you will feel like this is something you've known your whole life. And that religion that you had been taught before was sort of a distraction from the reason that you became religious in the first place, which was to find out the meaning of your life, the purpose, what is the gift that you uniquely have to give. So he says that the good shepherd calls us by name. So the second thing this boot camp does, first is bridging our hopes and fears. And as I say, the second one is protecting us and empowering us. Then the third thing that we need to learn is this idea of being able to see that our beliefs are no more helpful than our doubts, that they are both very helpful. This parable of somebody being born blind, and yet having more vision than religious leaders, is a warning. It's helping us realize that our beliefs are important, but our doubts are just as important. The gate is the meeting of those two things. And what you experience there is awareness. And if you realize that belief and doubt are both aspects of awareness, that what Jesus is trying to give us is a kind of awakening. A couple of weeks back, the story begins just mentioning that it's dawn. John is painting a tapestry here, that Jesus isn't coming to take away your sense of self-determination. If Jesus did that, he would be a thief. If somebody tells you what to think, they've robbed your brain. If somebody tells you what to do, they've robbed you of your will. If somebody tells you who you can love and who you can't love, then they've robbed you of your heart. So this sounds like very harsh language. To realize that it's mythological, I think is very important. Jesus isn't attacking real people. John is writing 100 years after Jesus is born. So it's meant for you. And it's not trying to teach you ideas that you have to believe in. It's more like a magnifying glass that looks around and says, look at your life. What feeds you? The sacred is something like bread. Look around you. What illumines your life? You're touching the sacred. And today he's saying, what is it that falls in between your opposites of yes and no, of having life that's insiders and outsiders? The idea that Jesus is the only way, certainly universal love, like he taught, is the only way. But he wouldn't have had to have 8 I am sayings if that's what he was trying to say. Hopefully the umbrella of what John is trying to do and give us is opening up for you, because he's trying to teach transcendence, and he's using ordinary parts of the life in the ancient world. I doubt that most of you have raised sheep, so this is probably not completely helpful. So I didn't go into that part of it, but you have known gates, and you have had beliefs and doubts and hopes and fears. And so basically what it's saying is the sacred, as it enters your life, will be something beyond your either or. It's both inside and outside. It's a cocoon that takes you in to help you find your own courage, to help you find your own wings. It's the gate between your hopes and your fears. And then true religion isn't something that fills your head with beliefs. It's more like a womb for awareness. It's between the either or of your beliefs and doubts, this birth of awareness. And finally, the gate is that place between our need for safety and our need for adventure. It protects us and it empowers us. It's a boot camp for shepherds. It takes us in when we're frightened and wounded sheep. But it calls us out into the world, not as sheep, but as shepherds. And it's a way of life. We all get wounded. We have to go back again. But it's an eternal spiral where when we're weak, we can be sheep. When we're healed, we can be shepherds. I want to close with a quote by Helen Keller. We talked about Helen Keller today in class. She said, every one of us is blind and deaf until our eyes are opened to our human family, until our ears hear the voice of humanity. I think that's what our passage is saying. She said, the best things in life are unseen. That's when we close our eyes, when we kiss, cry, and dream. And that's part of what our passage is. And then finally this, observers in the full enjoyment of their bodily senses pity me. People looked at Helen Keller and felt sorry for her. She said, but that it is because they do not see the golden chamber in my life where I dwell, delighted. For dark as my path may seem to them, I carry a magic light in my heart. Faith, the spiritual strong searchlight, illumines the way. And although sinister thoughts lurk in the shadow, I walk unafraid toward the enchanted wood, where the foliage is always green, where joy abides, where nightingales nest and sing, and where life and death are one in the presence of God. Well, this is my attempt to understand John's word. We'll take a minute for you to consider how you understand them. Thank you for your attention.